Welcome to Whisper Wire, where the quiet ones don't explode. They evolve. She was 28, a grown woman. But to them, still the baby. No husband, no kids. So they placed her at the kids' table. Mismatched chairs, paper plates, and the message couldn't be clearer. You don't belong here. But this year, she didn't swallow the shame. She stood up, walked out, and finally made them listen. My parents invited me to a formal family dinner, but made me sit at the kids' table while my married siblings joined the adults. I quietly got up and left hours later. They were desperately calling me. I had a feeling this Christmas dinner would be a disaster the moment I walked in. It's not like I didn't know what I was walking into. It's always the same. But this year, I was determined to hold it together despite everything. Let me introduce myself. Amaya, the youngest of 4 siblings, but being the youngest has never meant anything sweet or cute in my family, if anything. It's always been the reason they talk down to me. I'm used to it at this point. I'm 28 now, but to them, I'm still baby. I don't have a husband or kids like my older siblings, but I've been successful in other ways. I have a career I'm proud of, a small but loyal group of friends, and a sense of independence they can't seem to grasp for them. It's always been about marriage and kids. Nothing else matters. Christmas dinner was always a big deal for our family. It's one of the few times of the year when we all gather at my parents' house, which is this massive old Victorian place that's been in the family for generations. It's a house that looks perfect for family photos, but is a nightmare to clean. I'd always hated the place. It's cold and distant, just like my parents. But it's tradition. So every year I go, even though I'd rather be anywhere else, I go because, family, I showed up just after everyone else. My oldest brother, Chris, was already there with his wife and 3 kids, loudly setting up the table as if they owned the place. Then there was Amy, my sister with her husband and their baby, always perfect, always polished, always showing off their ideal life. My parents were in the kitchen bustling around, acting as if they had everything under control, while managing to make everyone feel like they were still 5 years old as usual. I slipped in quietly, hoping to avoid the drama that was sure to unfold when my mom saw me. Her face lit up with that fake smile she always wore, the kind that made me feel like I wasn't really welcome, but I was tolerated for the sake of the holiday. "Maya, sweetie," she said, giving me a hug that felt more obligatory than affectionate. "So glad you could make it. Go ahead and grab a seat." I barely had time to respond before my dad called from the other room, his voice booming with that authority he used when he wanted to remind everyone he was still the man of the house. "Dinner's about ready. Chris, Amy, get the kids situated, please." I stood there for a moment, not sure what to do. I wanted to say something, but it was Christmas. I didn't want to make a scene yet. That's when my mom, in that subtle way she had of making everything feel like a lesson, spoke again. "Maya, why don't you sit at the kids' table? We've got a special spot for you there with the cousins." I froze. I couldn't believe it. My mom, with her sweet saccharine tone, had just asked me to sit at the kids' table, the one they set up every year with a mismatched array of chairs, paper plates, and half-hearted decorations. I glanced over to the dining room. The adults' table was set up beautifully with fancy china glasses of wine and candles that gave the whole thing an elegant, grown-up vibe. There at the head of the table was my dad, looking as smug as ever, surrounded by my married siblings. No room for me, though. I looked back at my mom, trying to hold back the anger bubbling inside me. I could feel the familiar sting, the one I always got when they tried to remind me that I wasn't good enough in their eyes. It wasn't the first time they'd made me feel small, but this was different. This wasn't just a little comment or a side eye. This was deliberate. They knew what they were doing. I forced a smile, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Sure, Mom." "Thanks," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled too, but there was something in her expression, something that said she didn't really care about how I felt. This was all about keeping up appearances, making sure everything was perfect. I don't think she even realized how much it hurt to be missed like that. Without saying another word, I walked over to the kids' table, my stomach turning with every step. It wasn't like I expected anything better, but for a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd treat me like an adult. I sat down at the little plastic chair surrounded by toddlers who were more interested in their mashed potatoes than the awkward silence I felt in the air. My cousins were in their own little world, ignoring me completely. I stared at the plates in front of me, sloppy, unaying. It was like they didn't even try to make it look good. I could have sworn I saw one of the toddlers drop a chunk of broccoli under the table, and I wanted to scream. That was when it hit me. This wasn't just about the table. This wasn't about tradition or the holiday spirit. This was about them seeing me is less than they weren't even trying to hide it anymore. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I stood up quietly, the weight of the decision pressing on me. I didn't need to say anything. I didn't need to shout or make a scene. I just grabbed my coat, slung it over my shoulder, and walked straight for the door. As I opened it, my mom's voice called out almost too late. "Maya, where are you going?" she asked, her voice now laced with confusion and a hint of irritation. I didn't look back. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice cold. "Enjoy your dinner." The door slammed behind me. The cold air hit me like a wave, but I didn't care. My car was parked just down the street, and I was out of there. The sound of my parents' frantic calls fading in the distance. I drove for hours aimlessly until I finally ended up at a quiet diner, sitting in a booth by myself. I ordered something warm, my hands still shaking from the adrenaline. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt this much rage and relief all at once. That's when my phone started blowing up. Calls, messages, the usual. I glanced at the screen. It was my family, Chris, Amy, even my dad. All calling, all texting. But the one that stood out was from my mom. "Where are you? We need to talk." "This isn't funny, Maya." I felt a smirk tug at my lips, the kind that had been building all evening. I wasn't about to pick up. Not yet. The ball was in my court now, and they had no idea what was coming. I set my phone down and took a slow sip of coffee, watching the steam swirl. What would I do next? Even I wasn't sure yet. But I knew one thing. They weren't going to like it. I stayed at that diner for what felt like hours. My phone buzzed every few minutes. The messages grew more frantic, more desperate. "Chris, Maya, this isn't funny. Where are you, Amy? Mom's freaking out. We just want you back." Then, "Dad, come on. Don't act like a child. Get back here." I didn't reply. I didn't owe them a thing. They made their choice the moment they sat me at the kids' table like I didn't belong. All I had ever wanted was to be treated like an equal. Instead, they shoved me aside like I was still a child. After about an hour, I finally picked my phone back up. The tension in their messages was thicker now, like they were starting to realize I wasn't going to just come crawling back. Then I saw the latest from my mom. "Maya, I don't understand why you're doing this. Your siblings are worried. You're ruining Christmas. Don't make this about you. You're being selfish." That one made my stomach twist. Selfish. Funny how it's always me. Their whole night had been about appearances and control. But suddenly, I was the problem. I stared at her message, then calmly blocked her number. I wasn't letting her guilt trip me. Not anymore. This wasn't a tantrum. This was a boundary, a line drawn after years of being dismissed and sidelined. Later, after I finished eating, and the adrenaline had faded, I opened our family group chat. Dozens of messages already. She's being childish. This is so unnecessary. She's overreacting. I could have ignored it, but I didn't. I wanted them to feel it. Really feel it. I started typing slowly, then faster. You still don't get it. This isn't about tonight. It's about every time you made me feel invisible. Every time I wasn't enough. Unless you needed something, you praise each other for following the same script. Marriage, kids, keeping up appearances. I chose a different path, and I'm proud of it. Maybe it's time you respected that too. I paused for a second, then hit send. It didn't take long. The replies poured in. Dad, you're being dramatic. Get over yourself. Amy, you can't just leave like that and expect us not to care. Chris, we didn't do anything wrong. You're overreacting. Come back before you ruin everything. Each one proved my point. They still didn't get it. Still blaming me, still making me the villain in a story they wrote. But this time, I wasn't playing along. I didn't reply to their calls or texts. Instead, I did something I'd been thinking about for a while. I opened my photo gallery and found an old Christmas picture. Everyone smiling, pretending we were perfect, except me. I looked like I didn't belong, and honestly, I never had. I sent the photo to the family group chat with the caption, "Here's to the perfect family," always making sure the youngest knows their place. Then I turned off my phone. The silence that followed was freeing. No buzzing, no guilt-tripping. For once, I felt peace. I wasn't begging for their approval anymore. Hours later, I finally checked my phone. Dozens of missed calls, texts shifting between anger and guilt, the same pattern. My mom's message was long, trying to twist everything. This isn't who you are. You're ruining Christmas. Please come back. My dad called me childish. Chris said I was making things worse and owed them an apology. An apology for standing up for myself. Then came Amy's message. It was softer. I know you're hurt, and I understand why, but this isn't the way. Please come home. It's Christmas. She had always been the one I trusted most, but now I wasn't sure. I wanted to explain, but instead I typed, "I'll think about it." The next morning, more messages came. Even family friends were asking where I was, but none of them really heard me. They just wanted things back to normal. Amy messaged again. "We're all upset. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Still no accountability, just pressure." Then my dad again. "You're going to regret this." Same old guilt. Same old control. I stared at the screen, heart heavy. I wasn't ready to go back. Not until they saw me for who I truly was. Not until they changed. And this time, I meant it. The calls and texts kept coming. But I kept my distance. I'd made my choice, and I wasn't going to let them guilt me back into the role they had cast me in. As evening came, I sat alone, staring at the empty chair across from me, the one I would have filled if I had gone back. A part of me wanted to cave. It was Christmas, after all. But I knew if I returned now, it would be like saying all those years of being sidelined were okay, that they were right, and I was just being dramatic. I thought of the photo I'd posted in the group chat. The forced smile. Me shoved to the side. That picture said everything. This wasn't just about tonight. It was about years of being treated like I didn't matter. Then my phone rang again. It was my mom. I hesitated, then picked up. "Maya," she began, sounding tired. "We need to talk. This has gone on long enough." I stayed silent. "You're making this more complicated than it needs to be," she said. "Your dad's upset, Chris." "Amy, I'm upset. I nearly laughed. They were upset. I'm not pushing anyone away, I said calmly. I'm just done playing along. I'm not sitting at the kids' table and pretending everything is fine. She paused, then said, You're breaking the family apart. This isn't just about you. I finally let it out. I spent my whole life trying to fit into the mold you made for me. But you never saw me. You didn't want me to grow up. You wanted me to stay small and quiet. Tonight was the last straw. Silence then. I'm sorry, Maya. I didn't know you felt that way. It took me a while to realize it, too. I replied softer now, but I'm done pretending. There was a long pause, and for the first time it felt like she was really hearing me. I just want us to be a family again, she whispered. I'll think about it, I said. Same words as before, but this time they meant something else. Not giving in, taking my time, setting boundaries. Okay, she said quietly. I just want you to be happy. I hung up and exhaled deeply. It wasn't over, but I finally felt in control. I wasn't going to be their afterthought anymore. As snow fell outside, I stared out the window, unsure of what came next. But for once, I felt free. And as for Christmas, it wasn't ruined, because for the first time in my life, I chose. They called her selfish, dramatic, said she ruined Christmas. But she didn't walk out for attention. She walked out for peace. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a boundary. And when they tried to guilt her back into silence, she gave them the one gift they never expected. Her truth. Subscribe to Whisper Wire, where every quiet voice finally gets heard.